Ripley's personal life was as unconventional as his chosen career, and the eccentric artist pursued both with gusto.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most infamous deceivers, fraudsters, and plunderers of all time.
If you can perpetrate a fraud, smile about it, go to White House dinners, that to me is just no conscience.
Number 10. Han van Meegeren. Imagine recreating an artwork at a level where the original cannot be discerned from the recreation. Now imagine selling the forgery copy to a Nazi leader. That is exactly what Han van Meegeren did. The Dutch painter created fake works in the style of 17th century master Johannes Vermeer.
Do you think I'd sell a priceless Vermeer to the Nazis? It wasn't a Vermeer. I painted it myself.
His forgeries were so convincing that even top art critics authenticated them. His most famous con was selling a fake Vermeer to Nazi leader Hermann Goering during World War II. After the war, van Meegeren was accused of collaborating with the Nazis by selling them Dutch cultural treasures. Van Meegeren confessed to the forgeries and was found guilty of fraud. Ironically, he also became a folk hero for having swindled a Nazi.
What did they pay for it? They paid for it 1,168,000 Dutch guilders, which would be today something like £12 million. Hard to believe. That for such an ugly painting.
Astonishing amount of money.
Number 9. Dennis Kozlowski.
The former Granite Stater says he was overpaid, but everything he took was on the books and paid back.
So I believe that I was permitted to do this. And everything I was doing for 27 years.
What's the best birthday gift you can give your wife? Well, for Dennis Kozlowski, the CEO of Tyco International, it was an ice sculpture of Michelangelo's David peeing vodka. Except Kozlowski didn't purchase the sculpture using his own money, but rather money funded by his company. The man who lived an extravagant lifestyle, much like a corporate king, soon found himself accused of stealing over $150 million through unauthorized bonuses and fraudulent stock sales.
We had a pay-for-performance culture at Tyco, so most of the money I earned was in the appreciation of Tyco stock.
One year you made, I think, $170 million.
I'm not sure 170, but I made over 100 million. Yeah.
Convicted of grand larceny, conspiracy, and securities fraud, Kozlowski's trial was a media circus. Befitting a man of his insatiable greed, Kozlowski was sent to prison, where he stayed for over 6 years. His story is now a corporate case study for how power can be abused for personal gain.
Donald Trump called your behavior tacky.
Tacky? Tacky from Donald Trump?
From Donald Trump.
Wow. Well, he would know. So.
Number 8. Ferdinand Marcos and Imelda Marcos.
Of course not. Of course not. I am president. I was proclaimed by the only constitutional body that can canvass and proclaim the winner in a presidential election.
Being a president means being of service to the people of a nation. That wasn't the case for Ferdinand Marcos, president of the Philippines from 1965 to 1986. Along with his wife Imelda, the duo built a regime defined by corruption, kleptocracy, and repression. They siphoned billions from the country's coffers, stashing their wealth in Swiss bank accounts and real estate. Imelda even had an infamous collection of over 3,000 pairs of luxury shoes. To avoid trouble, Marcos invoked his executive powers to declare martial law, suppress political dissent, and maintain his power. Throughout all of this, citizens of the Philippines suffered in poverty. The power couple's dastardly reign ended in 1986, when the People Power Revolution forced them into exile.
A woman without makeup and manicure. Our nation can afford a
Number 7. George C. Parker. His specialty was a love for selling things that weren't his. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, George C. Parker conned unsuspecting immigrants and tourists into buying the Brooklyn Bridge. You heard that right. Parker was selling the Brooklyn Bridge, complete with forged deeds and official-looking documents. He also sold a few other landmarks in New York, like the Statue of Liberty and Madison Square Garden. He was so convincing that some of his victims even set up toll booths on the bridge before being stopped by the police. Parker was eventually convicted and sentenced to life in prison. He died behind bars in 1937, but his legacy lasts to this day in the legendary idiom, "I've got a bridge to sell you."
Roebling designed a two-level bridge. The lower level was for vehicles.
The top level was for pedestrians. Even today, no other bridge in the world has anything like it.
Number 6. Robert Ripley.
Even his imperfect smile was famous. When he finally had surgery to tame his unruly teeth, Ripley instructed the dentist not to straighten them all the way. By now, they had become his trademark.
The founder of Ripley's Believe It or Not loved collecting things. What may have seemed interesting to Robert Ripley would often seem quirky or odd to others. Ripley shared that eccentricity with the public by discussing bizarre and fascinating facts. Sadly, his facts were sometimes further from the truth than expected. Ripley was accused of exploiting cultures, sensationalizing artifacts, and discussing myths as reality for viewership.
Ripley actually had the gall to challenge Charles Lindbergh, America's #1 hero. His first solo flight across the Atlantic was cheered the world over as a feat of unsurpassed courage. To question this achievement was pure sacrilege.
He blurred the lines between entertainment, knowledge, and deception. Ripley's museums became treasure troves of curiosities. While not a criminal in the traditional sense, his legacy raised serious questions on the presentation of truth in the media, long before today's fake news.
You know, every time I see something unbelievable, different, awesome, I'll think of you.
And you'll believe?
Truth is stranger than fiction.
Number 5. Robert Mugabe.
If dogs and pigs know their mates, can human beings remain human beings if they do worse than pigs?
This is the story of a cheat who went from beloved hero to despicable villain. Robert Mugabe started as a liberation hero in Zimbabwe. He played a pivotal role in leading the country to independence in 1980. However, over the next 37 years, Mugabe fell prey to the corruption that comes with power. His presidency devolved into authoritarian rule and massive corruption.
You see, to tell us who to give land and who not, whether those who are given are members of my party, is irrelevant to Britain.
Zimbabwe's economy collapsed as Mugabe's government raised the country's resources. He seized land from white farmers in a violent campaign that led to food shortages and international sanctions. With no food or national revenue and skyrocketing inflation, Zimbabwe once issued a $100 trillion bill. Mugabe's betrayal of his people made him an enduring symbol of political greed and self-enrichment.
But within his own party, discontent was rising. Many believed he had overstayed and needed to hand over power.
Number 4. Gregor MacGregor.
He paid his way up the ranks of the British Army, which was common practice at the time. And whilst he enjoyed the titles, he wasn't so keen on the responsibilities that came with them.
Once upon a time, there was an infamous scam related to the invention of an entirely made-up country. Sounds too crazy to be true, it isn't. In the 1820s, Scottish conman Gregor MacGregor claimed to be the cacique or prince of Poitiers, a lush Central American paradise ripe for settlement and investment. Prospective investors and settlers bought land and supplies. All that effort only to arrive in a mosquito-infested jungle with no infrastructure. More than half of the settlers died. MacGregor pocketed the money and fled. His Poitiers scheme shows how easily hope and greed can blind people to glaring red flags.
They explain there is nothing here. It's all been a lie. The passengers resolve to set up camp whilst they wait for rescue.
Number 3. Bernie Madoff.
Why does he tell people not to tell anyone he has a hedge fund? Why does he give up all this money in fees? I knew in my gut that there was something not right.
For decades, he built a reputation as a financial genius. At one point, Bernie Madoff was even the chairman of the Nasdaq Stock Exchange. His reputation as a highly capable financier attracted clients from celebrities to charitable organizations.
Why would this big dog on Wall Street need to be running to raise money secretly?
Reality was far less pretty. Madoff sustained an illusion of success. Using investor money to pay returns to earlier ones, he defrauded investors out of an estimated $65 billion. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, Madoff got exposed. His scheme collapsed, wiping out life savings and charitable endowments in the process. He was sentenced to the maximum possible sentence of 150 years in prison, where he died in 2021.
He ruled with an iron fist, but kept everyone happy with money, steady returns for investors, and for family, an endless stream of cash.
Number 2, Elizabeth Holmes.
Then Vice President Joe Biden was invited to inspect.
This is sort of the laboratory of the future.
Unaware the devices didn't work and that he, along with the world, was being conned.
When it comes to making revolutionary claims that are all fluff and no substance, Elizabeth Holmes stands at the top. Holmes founded Theranos with the promise of revolutionizing blood testing. She claimed that with just a few drops of blood, her company could run hundreds of tests. Her proposal attracted massive investments from major shareholders and a $9 billion valuation.
We've designed it to allow for the same operations that a technologist could do in a laboratory.
Holmes believes that a finger stick, instead of a needle, will make people more likely to get their blood tested.
Theranos became the long-sought unicorn of Silicon Valley, and Holmes was poised to be the next Steve Jobs, except the technology didn't work. Theranos secretly relied on traditional lab machines. Once the truth was out, Holmes was convicted of fraud in a case that's a modern reminder that when you talk the talk, you better be able to walk the walk.
What I know is that I've put the best people in place to be able to investigate every aspect of this and ensure that we meet the quality standards that we hold ourselves to, and I know they're doing that.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into Settings and switch on your notifications. Number 1. Charles Ponzi.
It wasn't until after the First World War that Ponzi hatched his get-rich-quick scheme. The gimmick, something called international reply coupons, a way to prepay foreign postage for mail.
Imagine a scam so good that it's named after you. That is the Ponzi scheme. Charles Ponzi didn't invent the pyramid scheme, but he perfected it. In the early 1920s, Ponzi promised his investors a 50% return in just 45 days. He achieved this claim by exploiting international postal reply coupons. In reality, he was paying old investors with new investors' money. Sound familiar? Well, Ponzi was Madoff's inspiration. At his peak, Ponzi raked in millions of dollars. The collapse was inevitable, and when it happened, it left thousands bankrupt. Ponzi was arrested and deported. His name is now immortalized as the gold standard of financial fraud and a warning for all investors against get-rich-quick schemes that sound too good to be true.
On the one hand, you can say he was a swindler and he knew all along he was taking people. On the other hand, perhaps he just was optimistic that if he was given a chance, he could find $8 million that he owed people.
Which of these infamous cheats do you think pulled off the most outrageous scam? Let us know in the comments, and subscribe to Watch Mojo for more jaw-dropping tales of deception.
Ponzi would think that his legendary stature today is exactly what he deserves.